Hey guys, so I wanted to install some kind of lights on the front of my boat because my son and I tend to fish sometimes a little after dark, and I have a 1994 Bayliner 18-foot Capri that we have completely redone, and so I've been slowly adding the additional accessories that I would like to have so my boat does what I want it to do. So I'm going to be putting in these. These are LED docking lamps that are bow mount. So I have to cut a hole in my bow and install these, which I'm not all that concerned about. I ordered them on Amazon, and this is all the kit comes with. There's no screws, there's no instructions, there's none of that. But they do seem to be pretty responsive, and I went ahead and ordered them because most of the people that had reviewed them, the text said, you know, they were pretty decent. The covers, they're pretty thin, but they are stainless, so I don't know why that would be a problem. They look nice. The actual light is in like a cast aluminum housing. Seems to be pretty sturdy, and your wires, apparently these are set up with a high beam and a low beam and then the ground. So if you guys can see, you got three wires. The yellow and the white are high beam, low beam, which I'm not going to be using. I'm just going to tie those two together, and then you have your ground. I'm going to wire them up to my battery box just to see how bright they are before I go to all the trouble to cut holes and things in my hull, and make sure that this is what I want before I go to the trouble to install. So I'll get these hooked up and then show you guys what they look like when they're on. So this is essentially, you can see I have the red and yellow on the positive and the black on the negative. They're pretty bright. I think these will be just fine for what I'm doing. They seem to have a good beam length just looking at them here in the shop. So I think I'm going to move forward with the installation. So I'll get this set up and make a video of the installation so you guys have an idea of what you're dealing with. So here we are, front of my boat. Like I said, it's a 94 Bayliner that I've completely redone. Just kind of eyeballing where I want to put these in the bow so that they shine the way that I want them to. It looks like somewhere right here in this neighborhood, so I'm going to measure down and make sure I can replicate the same location on the other side, mark it. And they say to use your gasket for your hole, and you can see there's a front on the gasket, so it'll be something like that when it's on there. But I'll measure it and get it all straight, and then draw my circles and show you guys what I do to cut it out. The other thing that you want to consider is that you're not going to have any interference with interior or other things that may be in the front of your boat. So, you know, with mine, we don't have too much of an issue, and I'm going to wire them into my navigation lights right here, which that harness runs along this side of my boat. So it shouldn't be too hard once I get the holes drilled to tap in, run the wires up for my lights, and continue on. So I'll mark it and move forward from there. Okay, so I've used my marker, measured around, figured out, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a ridge right here. So I just came down 1/4 inch off that ridge and used my Sharpie and drew my pattern. One thing that I will say is that's a little bit of a pain. I use masking tape to kind of hold the gasket in place so I could draw it without it changing shape or something like that, and I'll show you that on the other side just so you have an understanding. But I'm also, you can see these little dots here off to the side. I'm going to pre-drill my holes through my hole so that I can make sure that whenever I put the screws in, it doesn't crack or mess up my wrap around it. And the plan is to basically drill a hole with a hole saw here and then use my Sawzall to cut out the remaining part. So I'll show you guys that as we do it. So what I've got here is a 2-inch hole saw. It looks like it will be pretty good. It won't span the opening, so we're going to start with this, and that'll make it very easy to saw. And I've already kind of pre-marked the center, you can see it. I'm going to drill through with the pilot bit. And I'm not going to use a lot of pressure because I don't want to mess up my wrap. Now I'm going to reverse the bit and go through the sticker. And I just kind of go around so I get a good circle like that. You can see it's right at the bottom and it leaves me about a 1/4 inch at the top so that I can trim that out as I move forward. So now I'm going to go back in forward and finish drilling the hole. All right, so there's our initial hole. I'll wipe that off and trim the rest out with my Sawzall. So guys, I started to cut my hole. You can kind of see down here on the bottom, but I think my Sawzall is not going to turn the way I want it to, so I've got another hole saw here. This one was a 2-inch OD. This one is a 1-inch OD, and it looks like it'll fit pretty good right here and help me make those radiuses so I don't have to try to turn the Sawzall the way I need to in order to make a nice oval cut. Okay guys, so here's my hole. I had to kind of cut it out and then enlarge it with my die grinder so that everything fits the way I want it to. I'll put these in here. That's we're basically looking at just like that, which I don't know if you can tell, but it's a pretty straight shot off the bow of my boat. So I like how that is, but before I do the installation, I'm going to cut the hole on the other side, run all the wires so I can just let them hang out of the hole, make the connections, and then drop everything back in and screw it together. So I will cut the other side and then we'll take a look at the wiring. Okay guys, as you can see on this side, I measured back, I got all my spacing right, and I taped my gasket in place so that it doesn't deform whenever I'm drawing my opening. So as you can see, I just traced around the inside. I've made some little marks where my holes are. Now I'll take this off, drill my 3 holes, and it makes it a little easier to see with the masking tape on there, and also it's going to allow me to set my Sawzall set my Sawzall against the boat without scratching my wrap or your paint or whatever the situation may be. So I'm going to drill my 1-inch hole right here, another 1-inch hole right here, the big hole in the middle, and then just use my Sawzall to cut out the interior. And then I'll pre-drill my holes here for my screws again. So I'll get this side cut out and then show you guys the wiring part. Okay guys, so I got my wire run through my holes. I like to use these particular kind of electric. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that heat shrink has like a glue inside of it, so it makes a nice secure connection. And then on my lights, you can see I wired up the yellow and white into one and then the black into one. And whenever I wired my boat, I used all SO cord. So it's like what you would find on the extension cord or cord replacements, but I like this stuff because it's fairly heavy. You get 3 wires, so you can have up to 3 circuits in it. So if you wanted to add something later, you can always trim that back and you already have a wire at your console or your switch panel, and you can just take a light out and wire something in. So these just will plug together, and then I will install this light into the hole. And then we'll go around on the other side. This one goes up to my dash to tie into my lights. This one goes around to the other light, and it was really easy just to fish around and pull out the other side just by removing my front panel. So I'll get this in there, leave myself a little bit of slack so I can tie it up to the other wire bundle that's up in the front of the boat and keep it up out of the way so it doesn't get hit with an anchor or something like that. But you can see it makes it really simple to use this SO cord. So I'll wire this together, tie it in at the dash, connect all the lights, and test it before I install them into the actual hole, because I want to be sure that they work and I don't have to take it all back out, because I've actually got some RTV sealant that I'm going to put on the back side and the front side of the gasket just to help, because it's in the front of the boat. I don't want to have leak issues or things like that. I got a good pattern and nice holes and plenty of gasket material, but still, just I'm a firm believer in cover your butt. So I will tie all these together and get them plugged together and then show you guys what it looks like before I actually install them. Okay guys, so I got my lights in. I got them wired up. You can kind of see here. I'm going to put a little RTV. I've already done it on this one. You can kind of see between the gasket and the light. And then on the back, when it mounts on the surface, these seem to be pretty bright. And both sides are working, as you can see. And I just wired, if you can see it, the red and white, or the yellow and white together, and the black to the ground. So I don't need the high beam, low beam function and all that, but I just want them to be as bright as possible. So the next step will be put them in the hole, screw them down, put the covers on, and then I'll show you guys a finished product. So here's the finished product. You can kind of see I was shining them at the door, making sure that they're shooting in front of the boat about the direction I want them. That's enough for me to see anything that I might need to see at night whenever I'm pulling my boat back in. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with them. Boat lights are very expensive when you start looking at the different kits, and I think these are perfect for my particular application. I don't have a very big boat. It's 18 foot, so I think these will work really good for what I was hoping to achieve. So overall guys, it's a pretty decent light. Just know that you're gonna have to go get some stainless steel screws. You're gonna have to have your own connectors, things of that nature. But overall, it's a nice light for the money, and they seem pretty bright. So I will let you guys know how it goes after I use them for a little bit. We use our boat probably 2 or 3 times a week, so they're gonna get some hours on them, and I'll let you guys know how it goes beyond that.